もしあのファウルチップが認められていたら、試合の流れは180度変わっていたかもしれない。キャッチャーだけが気づいた決定的な瞬間。ドジャースファンが今も怒りを隠せない。あの判定の裏側とは。続きが気になる方はコメント欄で議論しましょう。高評価とチャンネル登録も忘れずにお願いします。
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah, the Dodgers had like a kind of a lazy Sunday afternoon mentality. It felt like they felt like me as I was laying on my couch watching the game too.
Yeah, I think just from early on you could tell it was like kind of one of those games, and especially umpiring crew too. Not like that. That's like a side thing. That's not why they lost, but like just all like a lot of sloppiness all around, both sides of the ball. Both teams really a lot of sloppiness, and that's how you get like a 13-5 Sunday game.
Yeah, totally. I mean, let's jump into it then. Dodgers lose, like you said, 13-5, kind of an ugly game. They don't complete the sweep. It is what it is. They win the series, but yeah, just sort of. I think the sort of sloppiness started in the second inning with Emmett Sheehan. Kind of, he got pulled. I think he had 35-ish pitches, something like that, right? And like we can start there. So there was a situation, right? I'll kind of let you get into it, but to set it up, there was a challenge situation, and the Angels, I think, won 2 challenges in that at bat. That was the foul tip at bat, right? Where
that was the foul tip at bat was the next one. Yeah, the foul. This one was the one where a ball got hit that Kyle Tucker had to play on. Wasn't quite able to wrangle in. That would have ended the at bat a little bit sooner.
Yeah. So you kind of see where my mind was during this game as it kind of got out of hand. But so there's that situation there. It leads to Emmett Sheehan having to throw some extra pitches, and then things kind of snowballed on him a little bit in terms of that, and they removed him. Can you explain sort of the reasoning there and just kind of the organization, the coaching staff, their thinking on kind of how they go about that kind of situation?
Yeah, and it's a Dodgers thing, but it's also just like a baseball thing. Like the Angels did it just Saturday, like where once guys get to like 35, 38 pitches, like yesterday with Jack Hanowitz for the Angels, like that's just a general red line that managers will not cross. Like you're not going to make a guy basically have to keep throwing pitches in that sort of spot, risk future injury. You just kind of have to yank them. Obviously, I put the Dodgers in a tough spot, even with an off day tomorrow. Like it's just 35 pitches with a guy who's coming off TJ. You're just not going to push that any further, especially when there was still only 1 out in the inning. It's not like he was going to be 1 guy away from getting out of it necessarily. And yeah, it was one of those things where a lot of it was 1 at bat. It was a 14-pitch walk to Nick Madrigal, who also had a 12-pitch walk later on in the game. Madrigal overturned 2 different challenges that would have ended the at bat. There was also the foul ball that Kyle Tucker couldn't wrangle in. That would have also ended the at bat. That led to a walk. Then also there's a long at bat against Jose Siri. Basically, Dalton Rushing thought that they had struck out Jose Siri, and for good reason. The ball had tipped off his bat and into Rushing's glove, but that's not a reviewable play. Home plate umpire Dan Iasonia did not see it, so they called it a walk, and that loaded the bases. That brought the pitch count up to 35, and that was basically it for Emmett Sheehan. And then, there's another base hit after that sort of ended the day for Emmett Sheehan, but still. I mean, that is only a couple of runs that wound up being charged against him. Edgardo Enriquez did a good job keeping the Dodgers in the game at that point. But yeah, that kind of set the tone for basically what was a bullpen game to follow. And at that point, like you're stretching a couple guys a lot further than you're usually comfortable doing because you're just trying to eat up innings. And that's how you get like a 6-run outburst off Jonathan Hernandez as well later on in the game that kind of blew this game open for good.
Yeah, for sure. J.Y. Kim says, I learned today that the team controls pitch count, not just at the total level, giving it a threshold of like right around 100, but also on a per inning basis at 35. Is this across all 30 teams? So I can take a stab at this first. It is a general sort of guideline for every team. Yeah, I think at this point they know enough that it's not just a total number of pitches. Like a guy can throw 120, but if they're all pretty stress-free, they're not as concerned. But if a guy is throwing like 40 pitches in an inning, obviously there's some things going on in that inning that are causing that. It's going to make it stressful. It's going to cause that, that extra strain. And so, yeah, they try to limit those kinds of things the research on all this is always a little bit in the gray area, but it's generally a guideline that is followed by all teams. Fabian, anything to add to that?
Yeah, like even as you're watching that inning kind of progress, like that's why like as soon as the 14 pitch walk ended, like Mark Pryor went out for a visit to give Emmett Sheehan kind of a breather. Even after that, like the velocity was a little bit down from where it had been earlier on the inning, which is understandable. Like that had just taken a lot out of him. So yeah, there's stress within innings that you're kind of factoring in as well. And also like it's one of those things where it's a game in June with an off day the next day. Like you're willing to kind of not punt, but like willing to sort of look at the bigger picture with a guy like Emmett Sheehan, as opposed to like, hey, he just has to wear it here.
Yeah. And so on Sundays, like if you've been with Fabian and I before, you know that like we don't want to get too deep into like that day's game unless something crazy happens. We kind of want to give a broader overview of the week and some of the other trends that we're seeing. But for this one, I think it is worth mentioning the foul tip that wasn't. And Dalton Rushing obviously saw the tip and Dave thought he saw it. It looked like he said, but not a reviewable play, right? What was sort of can you give us the context on how that happened, what it led to, and then sort of what they said after the game about it?
Yeah, basically it was a full count, I believe. Jose Siri, it was like an 8-pitch at bat, like the 8th pitch of the at bat. Jose Siri kind of checked his swing. It was a pitch that was out of the zone, but it clearly on replay, like it wasn't as obvious in the moment to everyone except for Dalton Rushing, who obviously like he was closer to it and probably could have heard it as well. But like ball clearly hits the bat. It goes into Dalton Rushing's glove. That should be strike 3. Dalton Rushing immediately like kind of pointed to the umpire and to the Dodgers bench, like, hey, he tipped it. Thing is, like, it's not reviewable, like you said. And if Dan Iasonia didn't hear it, didn't see it, and didn't ask for help for any of the base umpires on it, then the call sort of stands like as called, which was ball 4, loaded the bases. Obviously, base hit kind of follows, blue base hit follows, 2-run score, and that inning kind of spiraled from there. But yeah, after the game, Emmett Sheehan obviously said he didn't see it because it was just kind of far away from it. And obviously, he didn't want to like place the blame on that because like he pointed to like he just wasn't able to put guys away earlier in the inning as well. And then Dave Roberts said, yeah, like there was no explanation. And it's one of those things that like he hopes going forward they change rules like where you can sort of challenge that, because he alluded to a similar kind of situation where you used to not be able to review whether or not it was a hit by pitch or a foul ball. Right. And now obviously you're able to do that. He kind of argued the same thing where if it's a foul ball or ball 4, you should be able to challenge that because obviously that can swing things. And yeah, Dave Roberts said that changed the game. It's not the reason why the Dodgers lost the game, but it definitely changed the complexion of that inning. It's not the reason why Emmett Sheehan couldn't get out of the inning unscathed, but it certainly prolonged things and it made it a little more difficult, which kind of put the Dodgers in this kind of position where they essentially had turned today into a bullpen game unplanned.
Yeah, certainly one of those pivot points, right? Like, you get those every now and then where, like you said, it didn't lose them the game on its own and in a vacuum, but it led to a whole bunch of other things that probably did not help their chances to win, obviously. Talking about Rushing and kind of what he's doing there behind the plate sort of, brings up you did a story earlier this week or technically last week maybe, but about how the Dodgers are using the technology to help Dalton Rushing, not just on the hitting side offensively, but to help Dalton Rushing behind the plate. You want to go into that a little bit and sort of, how you got into that reporting? Like for me, and I think for some of our audience, this is always kind of insightful in how these things come about.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm sure like some of you guys have kind of heard of like the direct arc pitching machine at this point, which is basically this newer kind of pitching machine that can replicate not just displaying the guy's delivery on a screen, but also like the release point. You can map out exactly like the metrics on a guy's fastball, how much it moves, how much it spins, that kind of matches what a guy's arsenal is. So you can have basically a real life kind of simulation of like what it's like to face a certain guy. And obviously Andy Pah has talked a lot about how much that has helped him as a hitter, using that, being able to work on his swing decisions, not just like what are balls and strikes, but also the types of strikes he should be swinging at, especially against certain guys.
One of the famous use cases too. Sorry to interrupt you, but one of the famous use cases, right, was during the World Series last October when the Dodgers were getting ready to face Savage from Toronto, and
it didn't go high enough.
That huge over the top delivery, and then the trajectory doesn't go high enough to simulate it. Exactly right.
Yeah, so like it's been seen as like a hitter only kind of sort of development tool, but I think the Dodgers have kind of experimented with other ways to kind of turn it into a boost for a guy like Dalton Rushing, who clearly has a lot of potential. Is a guy they think really highly of, but also is kind of blocked playing times wise by Will Smith. So they want to give him reps. They've been trying to get him extra reps whenever possible. Even last year, they basically had him go out and catch guys' bullpens regularly just to get him, keep him used to live pitching, to catching it, to sort of the wear and tear feel if he needed to, and just keeping him built up behind the plate, but also keeping things sharp when it comes to understanding guys' arsenals, building rapport, all that sort of stuff. But there's an element now with ABS, and also you're like just knowing where the strike zone is and what it's going to be. It's one of those things where like the idea kind of got mentioned for us at the Athletic. Like someone asked in a mailbag, like to a general league mailbag, like, hey, have they thought about using this as a tool for catchers? And I came up to Dalton and like asked, like, hey, is this something you guys have thought about? I was like, yeah, actually, we just started doing it this week, where they kind of figured out how to calibrate it, where you can figure out how to calibrate it, the zone basically to where it would be for certain guys in the lineup for that night, but also like he can set it up and squat and basically catch what Justin Robleski looks like over the course of kind of a simulated couple of at-bats, just to get used to what it looks like coming out of that slot from Justin Robleski and seeing what the stuff kind of is doing. And also there's a monitor on the side there, so you can sort of see, like, judge, like, all right, is this a strike? Is this not a strike? Is this a challengeable strike? What does this look like on the ABS zone? And he's gotten some reps there. And obviously he kind of struggled with ABS early on in the season.
Yeah.
He struggled a little bit last year too. He said he was actually pretty good at it in minors in 24, but he just, especially when he didn't have as many reps back behind the plate, it just sort of threw off kind of the rhythm, like the looks. It's one of those things where obviously your feel for the zone gets better the more and more reps you get at it, especially more recent reps. So it was just more difficult for him to do. So this is a way to sort of keep the reps more fresh. So when he goes back out there, he can sort of have a better feel for like what the zone looks like, especially at that game speed. And yeah, he's on a little bit of an ABS heater right now. I think it's 5 in a row that he's won in a row, and like that's obviously a good thing. And the Dodgers have done a good job overall, ABS wise, behind the plate with Will Smith, who I think was tied for third or towards the top of the leaderboard in terms of total challenges won behind the plate. So they're using this as a way to kind of leverage the margins the way that they can.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, did you get a chance to poke around at all, like with anyone else? Are other organizations using Traject in this kind of way?
The only team I know that has tried it is the Nationals, which makes a ton of sense, especially with that new front office, that new coaching staff. Very young, very forward thinking, very much willing to try things, doing a lot of things that are really experimental in the game. And it's not surprising at all that they're trying it. I wouldn't be surprised either if other teams have done it. They just haven't quite like talked about how they've sort of done it. And with Dodgers, it's a pretty unique case with like this is a very much a development project in Dalton Rushing, who they can't afford to just give a bunch of playing time. So it's kind of a unique set of circumstances there.
Yeah, for sure. Too bad the ABS system couldn't be used for that foul ball today. It might have been a little bit of a different outcome. And then we see him yesterday go 8 innings, allows 1. Didn't strike out a ton of guys. He only struck out 4. But the ERA drops to 2.68. And so, Fabian, like, what are you seeing here? Is it's hard to say like he's ever really struggled, this season, but the consistency and the sharpness, aside from that one start that was a little inefficient, he was kind of effectively wild maybe, but what have you seen from him in this last handful of starts? And in those last handful of starts, if you just look at that sample, the ERA is under 1. Go ahead. Yeah, take it.
Yeah, I think what we've seen from him this year, like this is the reason why you give a guy $325 million. Like we have not seen the best version of Yoshinobu Yamamoto yet this season. And yet this is what we're seeing. This is the guy who went out, put up 8 innings last night, has a 2.68 ERA, and has not had like his best start to the season. And you can sort of feel like each start he's kind of like figuring something out. Like the last couple starts, like the velocity's ticked up. The command is always there. Like you just know you can bank on a floor with him. That you just know what you're going to get every single time out. Like even if he's not the most dominant Yamamoto, you just know you're going to get quality performance. And even that giant start that people kind of pointed to, like that was like for the whole, he like looked good in that start. He just gave up a couple of home runs to the bottom of the order that kind of muddied up the line a little bit, and then a couple of inherited runners scored after he left the game. So like he still has like basically every time out there gone deep enough into the game, given Dodgers a chance to win the game. And it's just a testament to his consistency and how good he is and how many different ways he has to get you out, where he's got like 6 pitches that he knows how to command at all times that are all like really effective pitches. And he has a solution to face any type of hitter. Like he can go up in the zone with a fastball, blow past a guy. He can go sinkers low in the zone, keep you on the ground. He can strike you out. He won't walk you for the most part. And even when you get runners on against him, he's really good with runners on base. Like this is just such a consistent pitcher. And that's why like he has always kind of amazed me, especially like after that rookie season, the way he kind of rebounded that postseason run. Like from that point on, like this has been a guy who kind of understands, like he's not, you don't ever want to say guys like figured it out, but like there is not a single situation. I think Yamamoto knows there's not a single situation that's going to present itself in a start that he doesn't know how to get his way out of. And sometimes he just won't be able to get out of him like that. And that happens to every starter. But the fact that he's a guy who kind of goes in and has all the answers to the test, like sort of shows you the quality of pitcher he is. And like, that's why you can't completely rule him out of a Cy Young race, even though obviously like he's not the name, not the 4th or even 5th or 6th name that you're sort of thinking about in that heated race right now, just because of how good he is and how good he's already been, even when he hasn't been at his best.
Yeah, I agree. And you answered my next question for you on this was like, is there a situation that you've seen him since the World Series where it looks like he's been rattled? Because it hasn't looked like it to just, watching him on TV. And you kind of got into that a little bit. But you bring up sort of like where this could end up. And, I think right now, like from a Dodger standpoint, at least, like Ohtani is taking so much of the attention when it comes to the Cy Young Award in the National League from a Dodger perspective. And like, if the national media or if the voting block is taking a look, like everything is kind of focused on Ohtani, there's a really good chance that you could look up at the All-Star break and look at Yamamoto's numbers and go, oh, wow. Like he's sort of flown under the radar and how good he's been. And if he can ride this, like he's going to be a guy who is certainly going to be in the mix for that. Even with what Ohtani is doing, even with what Christopher Sanchez is doing and some of the other names, but he's just been that good. And I think you pointed to it earlier, like the consistency that he brings is just so incredible. Like it's Kershaw-esque.
Yeah, I think there's like when you heard Kershaw speak about him, like there's a certain reverence that Kershaw had speaking about Yamamoto that you don't hear often from him. Like he said, like those are perfect mechanics. Like those are the most perfect mechanics you can imagine, because like you watch it, like like it's obvious like why he repeats how he's able to repeat his mechanics so well. It's because it's so clean. He has this extreme body control. Like that was all the stuff that like was talked about him when he came over. He's just doing it here now. And there was a small little adjustment period. Even like his rookie year, like he missed time, but he had a 3 ERA and was dominant in the World Series. Like this is a guy who has always been one of the best pitchers on the planet. And I don't think it sort of gets stressed enough. Like this is the guy who was the best pitcher, best player in Japan for 3 whole years before coming over. Like for all the hype the Roki Sasaki had, Yamamoto accomplished so much there before even coming to the States. And like there's a reason why other teams were willing to go to 300+ million, why the Mets and Yankees were willing to keep sort of up in the offer until basically they said like he's going to sign with the Dodgers, like stop raising the offer. This is the guy who was like fulfilled what he was supposed to be. And he is, I keep saying like, this is a guy who just finds every single way to get you out. Like he does it differently every single start. And even last night, he said like, yeah, I started just like experimenting with stuff down the stretch. And granted, the Angels lineup's not very good,
Right.
but
Yeah.
like,
And he was up 9-1, whatever it was.
yes, and like a lot of the at bats on both sides, like after the first inning of that game, we're kind of like, just shut it down. Let's go on to the next.
Yeah,
game.
spring training
But-
kind of game.
But it's one thing, like in theory, to do that. Another thing, like, all right, 22 straight batters retired and finished the 8th inning at 93 pitches. Were like, if they really needed to, they could have sent it back out there for the 9th. And he was cruising to that extent. Like there was like a whole inning where I think where he went without throwing a ball. Like he was just pounding the zone and understanding like, hey, like I have a window of opportunity here to basically like make sure the bullpen doesn't have to wear it at all today.
Yeah.
Even if it's not necessarily in the swing and miss I'm used to, like I know how to get quick outs early on and
He was
get
pounding
put the
the
ball on the
zone.
ground. Yeah. And how to end at bats quickly when you have to. And understanding the situation and understanding all of that, like he can dominate you or also like know how to get yourself know how to get a hitter to get himself out as quickly as needed to sort of do what he needs to do for the teams. Like,
Yeah.
he's just so good at that. Like, so good at doing just about everything on the mound. That is what makes him so special to watch.
Yeah, totally. JY Kim with another super chat. We appreciate you. How much does ERA matter when it comes to the Cy Young Award? I'll go first, but it's a factor, and it's sort of the glamour number that you're going to see thrown up on the TV screen for the most part. But I think from the voting block, like it's one of probably several that you're going to see. I think we've gotten to a point now in Major League Baseball sort of evaluation that people understand what ERA is, but also understand that like you can now sort of use complementary numbers to get a better indication of what a guy's effectiveness has been. ERA is still something that like is defense dependent, and there's other numbers like FIP and XFIP and things like that sort of take that out of play, and can give you maybe a truer number of a guy's effectiveness. Fabian, what do you think here?
Yeah, it's someone's voted for the award before. Like it's a good starting point for sure. Like you look at that, you look at WAR, you look at some of the underlying stuff like you mentioned, like fielding independent pitching, like strikeout rates, walk rates, like how they kept the ball in the ballpark. And I think the one thing, like, and I'm guilty of this. Like I voted for Corbin Burns in 21, and that's like over Zach Wheeler. That's one of those things where, like, in retrospect, I probably would have had a different vote because I think the appreciation for innings is one of those things that it's just you watch enough of these seasons go by, and especially innings at an elite clip, like what Christopher Sanchez is doing, even like a Yamamoto did last night, where like he is pitching on the same once a week schedule as Shohei Ohtani, but is still also somehow only 9 innings, I think, behind Christopher Sanchez in terms of innings, which is impressive. Like to go to 77 in the third innings, basically pitching once a week like Yamamoto has been probably the most remarkable part of his season so far. The season is like I'm evaluating him. So like innings matter. The ERA matters, of course, but like, there's all kinds of different things that make it all encompassing as a pitcher, and especially like as pitcher usage kind of continues to kind of evolve, and maybe there is a little bit more leaning into like the elite of the elite starting pitching to go deep into outings and stuff like that again. Like that only further changes like what your calculus is of like what you're voting for Cy Young. And I don't know what my vote is like this year so far, but I don't envy those who who will wind up as NL Cy Young voters this year, because it's already a heck of a race. It's one of those things where like Ohtani obviously has to be considered with the ERA where it is, the underlying stuff where it is, even if the innings totals are a little bit lower, but baking in the fact that he's hitting as well. Like Mizorowski, what he's doing, Christopher Sanchez, what he's doing. You can't forget about Paul Skeens and Yamamoto's, and like it's just there's so much good pitching in the National League right now that it's going to be such a hard vote.
Yeah, for sure. And with Ohtani's lack of innings, because like even if he qualifies, for the ERA title, he's going to have to be. Some of those numbers are going to have to be so much better than, let's say, Christopher Sanchez, because of the innings disparity that's going to be there. Sanchez might get, if he makes all the starts, he might get up to 220 or something like that. Where I think Ohtani, if he gets to 170, that's around the ceiling probably. And so he'll have to be that much better, I think, to make up for that inning gap. Where you talked about the Corbin Burns situation with Wheeler, where like, yes, the ERA and some of those other numbers were better, but I don't think they were like leaps and bounds better. to make up that gap for all of the voters, because that voting, if I remember that race, that vote
it's as close as it's been. Yeah, I think they have the same amount of first place votes. Like I think that's as close of a Cy Young vote as we've had in recent memory.
Yeah, and we get a good point here from Mirakaku, that 162 innings is not required for the Cy Young. You're correct. It is required to be a quote unquote qualified pitcher. You have to throw 162 innings as a pitcher to have a stake in the ERA race, let's say. And so it's true. Voters can, for the Cy Young Award, can vote for you if you don't have 162. But it feels like that's right. If you're not qualified for the ERA title, it's going to be really hard to sway people again, unless like if that's the case, if let's say he gets to 159 innings or something like that, and that ERA starts with the 1, I don't think he's got any shot. It's gonna, like, if that's the case, it's gonna have to start with the 0. And if he gets to 170, it's probably got to start with the 1, and it's got to be in the low ones, I would imagine, because I think, Fabian, I think you're right that while we handle pitchers in a different way than we ever have in different generations, the innings do matter over the course of a 6-month season, because they impact more than just that pitcher. They impact the bullpen. They impact how a manager can line up a rotation, because that a guy's going to give you 7 or something like that, right? Like it's more than just what that number on the screen looks like.
Yeah, I think like your point earlier on, like Ohtani's gonna have to be that much better than everyone else to win it with his innings totals where they're gonna be. He knows that, like, and that's why you sort of see the visible frustration every time he gives up a run, because he kind of knows that in the back of his mind. He's like he basically has to be perfect on the mound to have a shot at winning the Cy Young, and it's incredible degree of difficulty. I'm not going to put it past Ohtani, because like to this point, like he has looked like the best pitcher on the planet at different points. But yeah, it's just going to be hard to overcome like what Sanchez is doing and what Mizorowski is doing, and what Skeens probably will do, and what Yamamoto is going to continue to do. And yeah, there is also like some of it is like stuff that Ohtani can't help. Like he can't help. He has basically pitch once a week, partially because of how the Dodgers set things up, not just for him, but for Yamamoto, for Sasaki, and sort of like also just like how they want to set things up ideally anyways. But also like there's going to be like just a cap on how many innings he can throw just physically, the fact that he's doing both. So
yeah.
ここまで見てくれたあなた、本当にありがとう。この動画が少しでも面白かったら、コメントで意見を聞かせてください。そして高評価、シェア、チャンネル登録も忘れずに、次の動画でまた一緒に野球の熱狂を味わいましょう。